Hi, everyone. Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. It's Wind Down Wednesday. So I'm here, but I'm a little bit over the top today. I hope you all are doing well. Hi, Kim. How are you? Buenas noches. It is really buenas noches with the time change. I don't know if some of you saw my post. First, can you hear me? Just let me know that you can hear me. I am literally putting out fires as we speak. So, okay. Hi. It's a crazy day. It's actually raining today, you guys. I don't know what the weather is doing in your neck of the woods, but we're actually getting rain. We don't normally get rain. Okay, good. Glad you can hear me. Hi, Carla. Welcome back. Everyone, welcome back. Welcome back to Wind Down Wednesdays. I could drink a bottle tonight because it's been a real busy, crazy day. And I'm putting out a little bit, some fires as we speak. I just got a notice that we have no power at Casa ELM. And so I'm checking with my neighbors to see what's going on. And there's a few on my street that don't have power. And I'm just like, no. I was like, I'm about to get on the live. So anyway, Wusa. Hi, Kathy. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So today, I probably won't stay on as long as I normally do. So I'm just going to give you a quick heads up. We know the time has changed. So we'll talk about that. We'll jump into our subject. Welcome back. Thank you all so much for being here. I really, really, truly appreciate you all so much. Today, yes, it's going to be all right. I'm going to try to figure this out. And that's one thing I haven't figured out, like, how do I call customer service 24-hour line to just kind of see what's happening. So my neighbor said almost no power since 4:30. I just got a message about this. So I'm like, okay, thank you. So forgive me if I am multitasking tonight. Okay, we're all going to just hang in here and do the do. Okay, first thing I want to say, for those who weren't on last week, with the time change in the United States, Mexico did not change. And we normally change like 1 or 2 weeks after the US changes. This year, for I believe the first time in 30-something years, Mexico has decided they're not changing. So we will be 2 hours behind the East Coast, 1 hour behind Central, which normally we would be the same Central, like Chicago time. We're not even that. And Kemas, we will be 1 hour ahead of the West Coast. Okay, so I'm planning for next week's live to start 1 hour sooner. So instead of me starting at now 7 o'clock for me, so whatever time it is for you, I'm going to start 1 hour sooner. So I'm going to start at 6 o'clock my time, and whatever it is for you right now, it'll be 1 hour earlier that I will be starting. Okay, so if you can just make a note, I will definitely, yeah, it is a mess. Welcome, Auntie Lou. It's a hot mess. Okay, welcome, Insightful. Thank you all again for being here. Yeah, Mountain Time Zone. So we're going to be here until November. This is our time zone right now, and they're not changing. So it'll be interesting to see if they just like let us work through this, which is fine as well. Or will they, reconsider doing it next year? I have no idea. Doing it differently, but it makes it a little late for the people on the East Coast. So we'll just try our best to, work through this. I appreciate all of you coming and hanging out with me. Welcome, Jackie. Marilyn, yes, it's definitely, this too shall pass. Yes, we're gonna pray for some power, praying for power over on at Casa ELM. So tonight I am actually not having wine, even though it's Wine Down Wednesday. I decided to make something with mango and like a orange kind of mix or so. So that's what I feel for tonight, and water. I had a kind of a busy day. I went to Querétaro. Casa ELM is doing fine, Auntie Lou. Thank you. We just don't have there's a power outage right now, and I don't know why. It could be because of the weather, because it's raining today. Very unusual to be raining at this time of the year. So it has chilled it off for quite a bit. We were kind of experiencing our summer weather. As you can see, I'm wearing short sleeves, but basically, Control Chaos, Mexico 10, Canada 3 in baseball. Okay, thank you. I don't watch baseball, but thank you for that piece of golden sports gem nuggets. Yes, I love mango too. I love mangoes. It's kind of mango season. Yeah, we're going into mango season, I believe. I've seen a lot of mangoes around lately. So yes, Chardonnay would be amazing. A Chardonnay spritzer sounds so good. I love bubbles. All right, it's okay. This is what I made instead of opening wine. I actually had a wine from a vineyard that is about maybe an hour and a half away from here. It's called Cune, I believe. That's the name of the vineyard. I met the owner about a month and something ago. And I was at a friend's and he was there and he's like, oh, come to Dolores Hidalgo, come and check out my vineyard. So I have a couple of those bottles, but I'm actually going to just do this tonight and water. So I hope you all are drinking something fun if you feel for having a drink. Welcome, Stella. Yeah, it's okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Let's just talk about our subject tonight, which is going to be safety in Mexico. This is really, really important for us to discuss because there's a lot of fear around Mexico to begin with, right? We all already know this. We already know what those stereotypes are. We already know what the real news is. We already know what some of the not real news is, or just kind of the hype behind things. And I wanted to take some time today to talk about that. And for anyone who hasn't been here, to basically voice any of their concerns, ask questions. I'm going to try my best to answer those questions. And I'm going to talk about my experience in Mexico. And I think this came up a little bit last week where we were discussing this, but I had several people give me some of their feedback. Thank you to Suki in Oaxaca for sharing an article with me with some information, and also to Patricia Ann Talley. If you all are not familiar at all with Patricia Ann Talley, she's been in Mexico for a very long time, I think over 20 years. I believe she is from Michigan, I think. And if I got that wrong, I'm sorry. But she basically has a magazine. It's called Imagine Mexico, and she writes a lot of very informative articles about various subjects. She really works closely with locals for the Afro-Mexican community here. She lives in Zihuatanejo, and she is a professor. So I really enjoy speaking with her often. Often she has just a lot of information because she's been here for so long. So I really appreciate, her input as well. She shared an article. So I'm going to kind of be on my phone because I want to pull up some more of the details. So if you guys can just kind of bear with me, don't think I'm just like texting. I'm putting fires out, but we got this. We got this. And then Suki lives in Oaxaca, in the city of Oaxaca. She also has a place there as well for guests. If you're interested, you can reach out to her. I'm not going to try to say her name because I know I'll get it wrong, but she shared an article with me as well. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there and talk about some of the statistics. So we all heard about what happened in the border town close to the United States, right? There are quite a few border towns. Now, I haven't driven into Mexico. I know quite a few people that have. I know a lot of people do it, snowbirders do it. I know folks who live in Mexico have driven their Mexican plated vehicles into the US. They're American, but they have Mexican plated vehicles and they've driven into the US. I hear, mostly positive experiences. Sometimes people will say, someone was following me maybe, or it's one of those situations where it feels like if you haven't done it, I don't know what to make of it, right? So yes. Okay, thank you, Suki. And thank you, Controlled Chaos Color Brothers are playing for Mexico. Oh, okay. Thank you for that. I'm sorry I didn't know that. I don't watch a lot of sports. I don't get to watch a lot of anything, to be honest with you. Except, talking to you all, lovely people. So the point is that it's definitely something that's done quite often. There are probably thousands of people who drive into Mexico. There are quite a few entry points into Mexico. So if anyone is on here that has done it, feel free to, put your experience or drop comments if you'd like in the chat. But I just kind of want to say, that unfortunate things happen, and I'm not going to speculate about what happened with our fellow, citizens and, what their situation turned into is very, very unfortunate. I know a few years ago, there was another caravan, I believe, of families that were driving from somewhere else. And that happened where I don't remember the whole story, but I remember like the cars were lit on fire and there was just a lot of speculation around who they were. Maybe like there were like some religious ties and involvements to things that were questionable. Again, I don't know anything about this. I don't know anything about, these individuals themselves. What I do know is what my personal experiences have been. And I also really feel that Mexico is similar to a lot of other countries where, first of all, it's massive. There are 32 states in the country of Mexico. There have always been, I think, a lot of challenges. Welcome, Lorraine. Welcome. Buenas tardes. There have always been a lot of challenges with the border towns for various reasons. Again, I don't follow those reasons and I don't speculate. I do think that it's always important that no matter where you are, even in some of the safest places and safest countries, to always kind of be aware of your surrounding, be aware of what you're doing, be aware of where you're going. I personally have considered driving my Mexican plated vehicle to Texas, to the border towns in Texas on the US side to shop, right? Because a lot of people do that. It's kind of like, they have a lot of the stores that I'm used to and familiar with, but I have not done it, mostly because I just feel like, this is not that important for me. And because I wouldn't do it alone, and I'd probably want to do it with maybe multiple cars just because I don't know what to expect. So it's one of those things where I'm just using my own judgment and my own level of care. What's my own comfort zone? And I really think that a lot of times we have to be tapped into that. Just because I live in Mexico, just because I say, you know, I feel this way in Mexico, doesn't mean I just completely drop every guard and intuition. And I just kind of want to say that to people because, you know, coming from the United States, I think we have this false sense of security. I don't know how you all feel about that, but that's how I felt living there. It's almost like we've been so conditioned to think that the US is so safe. And when things happen in the US, it's kind of like, you know, it's sensationalized because it's news and everyone's going to now tune in. And, you know, there's like this air of fear. But then within a few days or whatever, you know, there's the prayers, there's condolences, and then people kind of just, you know, march right on to their normal lives. So I just kind of, you know, find that very ironic that there are really like extreme things happening as well in the United States. But it almost feels like, you know, there's this immune thing that kicks in where, you know, if it didn't happen to us, then we kind of move on, right? So I want to say in relation to living in Mexico, of course, this hits home because, you know, these are faces that look like us and people that were, you know, taking a trip to do whatever it was that they were going to do. And this happened, right? And regardless of the reason, mistaken identities, it doesn't matter. People lost their lives. So I don't want to minimize that at all. But I also want to say that I feel very safe moving around Mexico in general. Now, again, there are places that I am not familiar with, and there are things that I would not necessarily do, especially as a female, just kind of getting up and going. It's not that I think, oh, I can't go because I'm going to be kidnapped. No, I don't feel or think that. I'm more concerned because I'm not familiar with that place. I'm not familiar with that area. I'm not familiar with that city. And I don't speak Spanish well enough to maybe talk my way, you know, explain myself per se. So I feel like it's really important that when we're doing things that we're mindful of what we're doing, where are we going? You know, I can't talk about this part of Mexico because I've never been there. I saw some pictures and to be honest, it looks, you know, looks beautiful, at least the aerial shot that I saw. And I thought, oh, because again, in my mind, I think of border towns as kind of really run down and really this and that, but I haven't been there. So I'm making like a determination about something I haven't seen. And I think that that happens a lot in our culture is that the people who have like the extreme fears of Mexico haven't ever been to Mexico. And, you know, it's okay. If you don't want Mexico to be on your list of places to go to, that's fine. You know, that's your personal choice. Clearly, that's your personal choice. There are people who might even, you know, there are people that I met over my life that were afraid to go to New York, you know, oh my God, I can't go to New York City. I might, you know, get, someone's going to attack me or whatever. And I remember going to New York City thinking like, where does all this come from? It's just fear of the unknown and or someone else projecting their things on you or whatever. You see something in the news or you see something on even a movie or a TV show and you think that this is like real life. This is, you know, the real world or whatever. So at the end of the day, the point simply is if you're not comfortable coming to Mexico, understood, right? But you can't blanket cover that Mexico is going to kidnap you because they're not. Most of the time, there's some very specific reason why someone ends up in this kind of circumstance or situation. And to be honest with you, it typically has nothing to do with us. You know, I feel like if you are, just as if you're in the United States, you're living your life, well, let me rephrase that because I was gonna say just if you're in the US and living your life and doing your thing, like you're good. That's not true, right? We already know this. Like, there have been plenty of people who've been gunned down and they were just living their life, minding their business, doing their thing, right? This has happened over and over and over. It's a problem. And it's just kind of interesting that, there's this over the top fear of Mexico. And I was just like, well, we don't really experience those kind of random crimes where, you're out and someone just suddenly is angry at the world or angry at the color of your skin or whatever, angry that you go to church. I don't know, angry that you're at the movie theater in the parking lot. That doesn't really happen in Mexico. I'm not saying it has never happened, but it's a rarity compared to the statistics in the United States. Now, I'm not trivializing, this particular incident. What I'm trying to say is that we live in a world where things can happen. Welcome, Shauna. Good evening. And I think it behooves us to just really always be aware of our surroundings, always be aware of where we're going, but not making a predetermination that everywhere I would go to in Mexico is going to be unsafe and someone's going to kidnap me. I mean, it's just not accurate, So I wanted to kind of like just talk about that a little bit. Do you feel the atmosphere is different than states doing your deal? Okay, yes, Auntie Lou, to be honest with you, I'm going to tell you that I lived in just south of West Palm. Well, I lived in West Palm Beach, and I lived just a little bit on the east side of the 95. And the neighborhood was okay. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It was just an older Floridian neighborhood. I wasn't very far from the beach. And that town weirded me out, to be honest with you. We hear about South Florida, et cetera, et cetera. I also lived in Coconut Grove in very close to Miami. I lived in Miramar. And I remember just kind of walking around at certain times, and there were like a lot of people that were cracked out, a lot of people sleeping on the streets. There was just a lot of these like social problems, and that made me very uncomfortable. I love reggae music. For those who don't know, I am of Jamaican heritage, and I used to work in a reggae club, and everyone that came in the reggae club had to be pat down. Okay. Yes, I know, but why is this okay? Right? They had the metal detector. I remember after I quit, I didn't stay there very long. A couple incidents where somebody was pissed off, maybe drank too much. They're outside, they're shooting their gun from their trunk of their car. Why is that okay? You know what I'm saying? Like, why is that normalized somehow in that part of Florida? I'm not saying that this is everywhere in the US either, but the point is that, we're patting children down to go into high schools or middle schools, to maybe even go into universities. We're patting people down to get into a nightclub where you're supposed to have fun. You're supposed to be dancing and having a good time, right? But you're not afraid of that somehow. It's just so like kind of strange. I'm happy you're doing it, because clearly everyone is allowed that maybe doesn't have a criminal background to buy a gun, and yeah, so what to your rights? Fine, but guess what? We're always going to have those issues and those struggles, because that's the way the US is set up. So, there are people who believe in having their guns and they want to protect themselves and they want to protect their families and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? But it also puts the rest of the society in danger, places. And if someone just decides that they want to do whatever, then that's what happens, right? So I had a hard time with that. I used to be of the mindset that I wanted to protect myself. I had a gun license and I went to gun ranges and I did all, these things. But then I remember thinking, like, I don't want to feel this way. And I don't want to live under these circumstances. And I certainly don't want to have all this anxiety bringing my child to school. Like, they're going to school, right? They're not going to a gun range. They're not going to hunting. They are going to school. And I realized that I had a lot of stress and anxiety. Hey, Anne-Marie, welcome. If you guys don't know Ball Girl Will Travel, you need to find her on YouTube. She's on Thursdays. She talks a lot about all the amazing trips and travels. We hung out today that she does. And she also tells you how to travel as a solo female. And she has some amazing things planned and happening. So please go over, subscribe, like her channel. And before you do that, hit subscribe and like on this video and on my channel if you haven't already. And you come back every week. So I appreciate you. So my anxiety level really dropped, to answer your question, when I moved to Mexico. I remember the first few days that I got here, because I really had a lot of stress around living in Florida. And I'll tell you, it was very justified, okay? As I said, South Florida, there's just a lot of things that happen. People are partying, there's a lot of people drinking, there's just a lot of stuff, right? There's crime, there's a lot of problems, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And one evening, there was someone that was upset somehow in the development that I lived in, which again was pretty decent. And, I hardly ever watched television. I usually would watch in my room, maybe just before I was going to sleep. This one night in particular, Friday evening, I was like, oh, I just want to sit on the couch with Micah and I want to watch some TV. And next thing I know, I hear 5 gunshots, okay, random. And I froze, okay, because I was just like, that sounded like really close to my house. And this was my last straw. There was a bullet wedged between my living room window and my bedroom window. And we were right there on the couch at that time. And it was like just so random. Someone's car window. It was just like, and I don't want to make it sound like I was in I didn't live in the hood. I wasn't in, some crazy neighborhood. You can't blame it on that, right? Even if I was, it should not be a challenge. It should not be anything. So, that was it for me. I was just like, I am out of here. And so I just kind of wanted to say, like when I got to Mexico, I remember the first day or second day, we had like a couple days before we were moving into our Airbnb. And I went to the Jardín, which is the park in front of the church that is very symbolic here. You see it all the time, the parroquia. And I sat down on the benches and the energy was just really beautiful and calm. And my kid was running around and playing with some other children. And I remember just really emotionally breathing a sigh of relief because I finally felt like I don't have to look around. I don't have to check everything. And I started becoming very neurotic about this. I would, sit at a restaurant and with my back turned to a certain angle so I could see everything. I would go to happy hour and I'd sit with my back to a glass. I would go to the movie theater. I'm like in the last row. Okay, where are the exits? Like, really, who wants to live like that? So the point is I don't feel that way here. I don't move around society. It doesn't mean my guard is completely let down. Absolutely not. When I'm driving places, I'm very cautious of whatever, because if I got to step on the gas and bust through some stuff, that's exactly what's going to happen. So, and that's me being nice right now. The point is that I am always in mind of anything can happen because I am here. Anything can happen when I go to the US. Anything can happen if I go to Canada. Anything can happen if I go to Europe. Yes, some places and countries are known to be safer. But, I also feel that, again, there's a false sense of security somehow, or there's a double standard with people thinking about Mexico, especially if they haven't been to Mexico. Now, again, doesn't mean things don't happen here. Yeah, they have had a lot of challenges and issues and things like that. And it's unfortunate because I think a lot of people have lost their lives here as well for, mistaken identities, wrongful, understanding of things, whatever the case is. So I don't want to minimize that at all. I just want to emphasize that, but I also want people to kind of, if you want to compare, let's really compare things, right? That's been my experience. So I just kind of like to talk about that and say, so moving on, to have an imperialist mentality. Possible. It's possible, top dog, I think, it's just, again, people, I don't know. I really just think a lot of times people come here and they may be extremely fearful, but they don't necessarily have experience with Mexico if it's their first time, or they haven't traveled as much, or whatever the case might be. I think at the end of the day, I think it's important to really, again, if you want to visit Mexico, if you haven't been to Mexico, I think you should basically take your time and do research, look up where it is you think you're interested in, check out what's the crime level, anything it is that you really want to know, because I think it's important to have kind of a knowledge of where you're going. I did that. San Miguel is supposed to be, one of the safer places to be in general, right? Guanajuato, as a state goes, they have their challenges, but it's a whole state. But I did a lot. I did a lot of research. I checked out this city quite a bit. In 2019, they had a lot of problems in San Miguel, and I was just like, what's going on? People were trying to explain that they were changing administrations, and there's like this clash going on. And I was like, okay, do I need to get up and move? So for me, it's always being kind of aware and not just sticking my head in the sand, but at the same time, I am also doing as much as I can research-wise to make sure that my choices are kind of based on not just, random opinions. It's based on more information. So, that's pretty much why I've decided, like, let me get on here and talk about this particular thing, and understanding that people have their fears if they haven't been to Mexico at all. I can understand that. I just think it's important to do research, not just about that, but research in general. I think it's important to try the city, place, or country on, go in a group. There are lots of people doing group meetups here. Fly into the country, right? Take your time and go to land somewhere that you think, okay, this is my safe place, and I'm going to get picked up. And so someone's going to meet me somewhere, and they're going to be able to take me on this journey, and I'm going to be in a group. And even in the group, still being careful, check your surroundings. Where are you staying? We all can't afford to stay at Four Seasons, right? So if you're staying somewhere where maybe it's a little more mom and popish, it's like, okay, what is my surrounding? What does that look like? I can tell you culturally, most of the Mexican people are good-hearted. They may not have a lot, but they will help you. They will try their best. They'll try to make you feel welcome. They will basically try to be there for you. So first time posting, say thank you so much, Tracy. Oh, excellent. Congratulations. Wow. That's awesome. Thank you. If you don't mind, you can share with us what part of Mexico you're in. Action DJ. I'm sorry, I don't understand what you mean. Sorry. Auntie Lou, you got to research the crime rates. Yeah, I really think that's true. There are places that I remember years ago, I went to Thailand and they had some issues, and it's a pretty calm place as well. In general, the people are very gracious. I didn't feel concerned, but they had protesting and some other things going on. So I think it was just necessary to basically, um, keep my head up and look around. I started researching. I was there for about a month and I was just like, let me make sure I'm in a safe setting. Where am I staying? Things like this. This was a while ago, but the point is that things happen, I think, around the world, and we all need to be very diligent of our surroundings in general. And again, I'm not trying to take away from Mexico's past issues and ongoing. But what I'm saying is that I personally feel that it's safe to travel to Mexico. If you choose to live in Mexico, pick a place that is safe and a place that is comfortable. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the stats here. By the media overhead. Okay, so this was sent to me, and I'm gonna just read it to you. Let's see. She writes. Okay, so this was something that was sent to me by being a Mexican relative to the US. She writes, this below sums up my feelings about the warning from the US about coming to my area of Mexico, Colima. I haven't been to Colima. I'm just reading this. It was someone that wrote something and I thought it was interesting and mindful. It's a post from my neighbor, Ted Rose, who lived here with his wife, Susan, for 40 years. I'm getting increasingly annoyed by the media overhyping the potential danger of traveling to Mexico. Every incident becomes front page news. The fact is that Americans are more safe in Mexico than in the US. Here are the facts. While it's true Mexico has a significantly higher homicide rate, 28 per 100,000 people, the United States is 7 per 100,000 people. Violence against American citizens remains very rare in Mexico. In 2021, 75 US citizens died by homicide in Mexico, according to the State Department, but that represents a small fraction of the more than 28.8 million Americans who went to the country over the same period of time, meaning visiting or living in Mexico. Using those figures, the murder rate for US citizens in Mexico was around 0.26 per 100 visitors, significantly lower than the rate in the United States. Murder rate in Oakland, okay, this is not me, this is just what I'm reading, 28 per 100,000, Sacramento 8 per 100,000, and Mexico is 0.26 per 100,000 Americans. Americans are 100 times more likely to be murdered in Oakland and 32 more times more likely to be murdered in Sacramento. I'm not sure why they picked those two places. I'm just reading this that was sent to me. Mexico's gun laws, which is very true, are extremely highly restrictive. Gun violence is rare except between narco gangs versus other gangs and law enforcement. Violence against innocent bystanders, including American tourists, is very rare. Of course, there are always places and situations to avoid, just as you would in almost any city in the US. And their words, shit does happen. But if our State Department applied the same criteria for travel warnings in Mexico to travel to the US, every major US city and state would be on the do not travel list. Okay, I got this from someone. I thought it was interesting to give that perspective. Feel free to say anything you want to say about it. But I just kind of want to say, like, this is kind of the viewpoint I think that we have because we do live in Mexico. We've chosen to come to Mexico. I think that it's important for people to think about what exactly causes the fear. I feel like it's more fear because it's not familiar. It's the unknown. It's something that maybe you haven't done before, and then there's the language barrier. But I think trying on Mexico, if you really are interested in coming here in small doses, if you really have and carry that concern, or anywhere else you might want to go in the world, try it on. Like, I've always wanted to go to Egypt, but I remember years ago, back in like the late 90s, there were some tourists that were like killed over there in the pyramids. And I remember I was traumatized by this because it was around the time that I wanted to take this trip, and I've never done it. And I still am fearful, but I still want to go. So if I did go, I would probably go in a group setting, or I would go to maybe travel there, but go somewhere very reputable. So it's kind of the same thinking, I think, where if this is a place you want to explore for travel purposes or reasons in regard to living here, it's important to know where you're going and, be mindful. So it's like, it's just one of those things. So I'm going to look at, let's see, reading the local newspaper, where are you going is good. Yeah. If you can read the local newspaper, we have a newspaper here. I read the Atención, which is a bilingual newspaper. It comes out every week. And that's where I was checking for statistics on crime. And at the time, it was very low. Homicide was, at that point in time, it was extremely low. They had like mostly, like petty theft and petty crimes. I think I talked about that last week a little bit. And that's a real thing. It happens, people's houses sometimes get broken into. And a lot of times it's unfortunate, but a lot of times people are just looking for a quick thing they can sell, like maybe a TV or a computer or something like that. So it's just one of those situations where I think it's important to be in touch with the local community, and not just the expat community. I think that's a great start, but if you can be in touch with some of the locals and really try to see like what's happening on my street or my immediate surrounding or my neighborhood, people will pretty much kind of share with you, oh no, don't have to worry about that. I remember even being in Coconut Grove, and I moved to one house that was right next door to these guys. I just call them these guys that always were hanging outside. And it just kind of weirded me out because I was a single female with a dog. And I was just like, why are they always hanging around outside? They're just sitting outside. What are they doing? What are they up to? And I had so many stereotypes about this, a lot of stereotypes. And I remember thinking like, you know what? I'm moving in this house because I like the house, and I'm just going to be in this house, and I'll make friends with them, or stop, living in my mind of my own concerns and fears and things like that. And I moved in because, they would kind of give me this weird look too. And I was just like, why are they always outside? Why is that bothering me so much? The point is that once I moved in, I would say hello. I went outside. I started planting things in my yard. I started making it pretty out front. I would be like, hey, how you doing? I didn't engage in a lot of conversation, but it was enough to acknowledge that they live there too. And I had like a housewarming once. I brought food over, gave them plate. And I remember a few months passed, and one of the guys, he said to me, he's like, your house looks so nice. He's like, I'm thinking about fixing up my house, and I wanted to show you, like what I want to do in the yard or whatever. And he was like showing me some stuff. And I remember thinking like, you know what? Why did I have so much like, ooh, and they were, other Black guys, but I had these stereotypes in my mind. Again, it doesn't mean that, they're not doing what you think they're doing. It just kind of was one of those situations where I said, I'm not going to make predeterminations about certain things, and I'm just going to be friendly. And can I tell you, they looked out for me like I was a little sister. I would travel and they would like, I'm gonna look after your house, everything's gonna be okay, blah, blah, blah. I feel like, I've had to learn how to come out of this headspace a little bit. Again, still erring on the side of caution, but I've come a little bit out. Even when I first moved to Mexico, I was in a second and third floor townhouse, the last place I lived. And the first few weeks I was roasting upstairs on the third floor of my townhouse because I was afraid to leave the sliding glass door open inside a development that had security and probably 24 cameras. And I just had this thing where I was like, oh, I got to lock everything up. And I remember one of my friends that lives here, she was like, I think you can open the door and get some air. And I was like, I'm going to get a ceiling fan. And, it was one of those things where little by little, I had to shed those layers of concern and, kind of like, okay, I still need to be cautious, but I also need to not drive myself nuts, because I'm over the top right now with my stress and anxiety and whatever. So the point is that I did a lot of homework and research, and little by little, I started realizing like, oh, it's pretty safe. Oh, I can actually let my child outside. I never did that in the development I lived at in Florida. I mean, yes, he was younger, but I remember seeing some younger kids outside running around without their parents. And I was like, that's not going to be Micah. It's not happening, right? So in general, that's like my 2 cents that I wanted to say about that. Let me see. Let's see. Hi, Jackie. Welcome. Continue opening us. Oh, not be deterred. It's good. Yeah, you just gotta be careful. But I think everyone should still travel. Look where you're going. Look into the place that you're visiting. What's the political environment, and just keep your head up and also be aware. Let's see, Anne Maria. Yeah, I agree. Generally speaking, people are killed in Mexico, even in other countries. Yeah, I think we're all prone to an unfortunate circumstance and situation, but I think, statistic wise, moving around this area for me in Mexico, I just haven't ever felt unsafe. When I park my car anywhere, I always make sure there's not things just like hanging out that would be a temptation. I'm trying my best as well to play my part so I don't have a bitter pill taste in my mouth either, right? If I'm going to choose to live somewhere, I'm probably, as much as I love the countryside and the mountains, I would love to just wake up and literally put my window up and see a mountain. I would love that. I would love to have a ton of open space. But as a single female with a child, I don't know that I would necessarily do that, because I like the idea of having a house with a lot of land and no one around, maybe some animals. I'm not going to do that because I know my tolerance level is not that high, because I think I would be concerned probably too much. I may need to go and live somewhere in a Puebla that's close to where I would be considering doing this and try it on, right? And say, okay, what's this town like? Can I get to know the people? Whatever it is, the point simply is you got to try it out first, and you got to see if it's for you, and maybe dispel some of those concerns and those fears. And if you're like, yeah, living in the US, true that, because that's the reason why I brought my son here. There's so many variables in violence, and yes, where that's so concerned with. Yes, it is. I think we've been conditioned quite a bit to think that where we are, it's okay to kill each other, but nothing's going to happen specifically to you, but it's not true. We know, I'm sure we all know of someone who, died possibly, or even heard of on a regular basis. I remember hearing the news in the US, so-and-so got shot, someone up the street. And it was like, if it wasn't someone I personally knew, I just kind of went on about my business. Now, if I hear about that in San Miguel, I'm going to be like, oh my God, because it doesn't happen as often. If things have happened, we've had homicides here. They've been very targeted in general. But at the same time, it definitely feels a little more closer to home, right? Because it doesn't happen that much. So if it does, we're still a little bit concerned about it, Welcome, Evelyn. How are you? Let's see. Thank you. Hey, how are you? Our Black Utopia, if you guys haven't followed them, they are over in Portugal, right? Halisi and Rick. They have a lot of great info. So yes, up late. Thank you all for coming on at this late hour. I wanted to see if I can find info from, hold on a second. Let's see, from Patricia. And I wasn't as prepared with this one in particular, so give it a second. But do you all have any questions for me about this topic in particular? Again, these are my experiences, so I don't want you all to think I am trivializing what happened. I am not at all. It is extremely unfortunate. I have been following some of it to see what is what, a little bit, not excessively so, but I just kind of want to, see what's the news here. Okay, Patricia and Tally. I mentioned her earlier. She has a magazine, an online magazine. It's imagine-mexico.com. And it says, is Mexico safe? Crime in Mexico versus the US. She wrote this in July 2020. Let me see. This is the first question. Wow, they do. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to read the whole thing, but let me see if there's some stats on here that I can share with you. Show that mix it. No, they're only slightly. Okay, so she's kind of referring to the US has more illegal drugs versus drug usage. And then Mexico has more violent crime, murders, but this is gathered from statistics from countries around the world. Statistics show that Mexico has higher rates of violent crimes, but note that they're only slightly different between Mexico and the US for overall crime levels and property crime. So we have a lot of crimes in regard to theft, and that's what I was saying. And there's also the higher perception of corruption and bribery than there is in the US. And then there's some statistics in regard to that. And I honestly think, in my opinion, again, is a lot of the corruption and maybe some of the bribe type things is because it is at some level of their economy, it's people have more of a struggle, right? You have a very, in my opinion, very stark difference between the people who have money, and there are lots of people who have money, and then the ones that don't, and that it is really like a struggle. So maybe, for example, when I met one of the security guards that used to work at El Secreto where I lived, he told me he used to be a police officer. And he was telling me, that he was in a shootout I don't know the whole story, but he was saying like his wife was afraid for him to continue being an officer. It's very nice. So his job was being security officer. And, he was sharing with me, I didn't ask him, but he started to share with me more or less like the salary that they made. And it was, it was pretty surprising for you to pretty much put your life in jeopardy and maybe not feel like you're really being compensated properly for it. But at the same time, if, there are issues and problems where it involves guns or something like that, and the police may be trying to defend themselves, it's just kind of one of those things where is it worth it comes up, for them, especially. I don't think anyone's life is worth it, but because they're not necessarily compensated for the work that they do, especially a position like that, maybe where it feels fair, it's sort of like if crime happens, do I participate in a shootout for a salary that doesn't really feel justified? So I think sometimes what happens is a lot of corruption starts to kind of creep in these situations. And it happens in Mexico where people have been bribed or they try to bribe. It's illegal to bribe on both sides. It's illegal to ask, can I just pay blah, blah? And it's also illegal to be asked to just pay something so you don't have to deal with going to get your ticket at an office and blah, blah, blah. It happens here, okay? I don't want to minimize that either. It happened to me. Well, not me, it happened to us. I wasn't driving when we were in Puerto Vallarta. We accidentally turned up a one-way street, got to the end. It was early in the morning, got to the end of the one-way street, and there happened to be a cop right there. And he was telling us, we're going the wrong way. It was easy to go the wrong way in Mexico. And, so we turned and we went the right way. And then the cop pulls us over. We are literally exiting Puerto Vallarta with all our stuff. And he's just like, oh, you're going the wrong way. I have to give you a ticket. But if you want, you can pay this. I think he was asking for 1,000 pesos, and 1,000 pesos is about $50, more or less. Right now, it's probably 60. I talked about the cost of living last week and how the peso's gotten stronger, so things cost a little bit more for us, or we're shelling out more US dollars for things. And I was in the passenger seat talking smack. I was like, oh, no, I'm not paying him. I'll tell him to give us a ticket. Blah, 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 blah. And, the way it works here is they will take a license and they take a plate, and then you have to go and pay. If, for example, if you're parked somewhere illegally, because this actually did happen to me, I parked somewhere illegally in San Miguel. I was on the street. I was at a estate sale, and I was like, oh, I'm only going to be here for a few minutes. Well, I came out and they had taken one of my plates off and they gave me a ticket. So that's what they're supposed to do, right? But this gentleman wanted us to give him 1,000 pesos. So I started talking smack, like I'm not giving him anything. And I was just like, no tengo, I don't have it. Yeah. And then I said, just give him the license and let's go. And, the time it was like, no, I don't want to give my license. This is my US license. And I was just like, okay. And then, then the guy was asking us, I said, I don't have it. I don't have that. I had it, but I said, I don't have it. And, it's like, it's just like this, push and shove thing, which is ridiculous, but it happens. It happens here. And it happens because people try to get away with it. It happens because they're probably feeling like they're undercompensated for their work. There's a lot of dynamics and reasons and factors. And so I don't want it to sound like, it's not a big deal. It's just one of those things that it actually happens. How do you deal with it in the moment? That's how I feel. That's how I deal with it. And so I was just kind of like, I don't have it. And then I realized that the money that he wanted 500 pesos. And then I realized that the money he was asking for, if I opened and started taking out the money where I would have gotten the 500 pesos, there was a lot more pesos like visible. And I was just like, and then my mom from the back hands 500 and then, went on our merry way. Is it cool? No. Has it happened all the time? It happens a lot. It's even happened to my realtor that was on a few weeks ago. She told me a guy pulled her over, started trying to, to say whatever. Little did he know that she actually knows the police commissioner and all this other stuff. So, they get caught, they get, maybe punished or whatever. I don't know. Again, this is not my space to explain every detail because I don't know every detail. But what I can tell you is that there are challenges in this country, that there are times when there's crime. There are times when people are going to try to overcharge. There are times when the cop's going to try to get something out of you because, and a lot of times they'll play into someone's fear. If you know the rules, if you know the law, you can say, no, give me the ticket. I'm going to go pay for it. You don't have to buy into all this other stuff. But I also say, find out what are the statistics in the place that you're going to. Where are you going to stay? What do you need to be aware of? Don't go somewhere in, I don't know, like one of the beach party towns and get shit-faced drunk and, maybe end up, taking something or doing something and then finding yourself in some kind of issue or problem. I wouldn't even do that in South Beach. And I partied in South Beach. I was always careful. I put a cover on my drink. I never left things around. I never took drinks from people. The point is using your head, right? Using your head. So let's see. Police are not compensated well either. Yeah, this is true. In Portugal, I think that's what you mean. They're not compensated well. Our Black Utopia. Welcome, Lori. Yeah, I agree. There's issues everywhere you go. So the point is you all come here on Wednesday nights because you want info about San Miguel. You want info about Mexico. I can tell you I have been to a lot of places in Mexico. Ball Girl will travel. She's always traveling. She's been to a lot of places in Mexico. And, she gives a lot of very good information for those people who are traveling solo, mostly women. And the point is that there's always like that mindset where you have to be cautious and careful. Even when I go to a nice place, in December, I went to a resort, kind of like one of those resident timeshare, you can buy a house, build a house, you can get a condo, townhouse, whatever type living. And it was called Estrella del Mar in Mazatlan. And it was nice. It was beautiful, but it was on the ground floor. And I checked every door, every window. I made sure everything worked. Everything was locked up. Did my phone work? Like, I was looking around. Are there any, even, carbon monoxide, right? That's happened where people have died in their place. Walk with a portable carbon monoxide. I know Anne-Marie does videos about that as well. Even Shida has done videos on this as well. So the point simply is that we all have to also contribute to doing our own research and looking for information on the place that we're interested in going to, and also making smart decisions. So, if you planned, let's just say you planned on coming to Mexico, you heard about what happened, which is nowhere near where we are. It's over 10 hours away, but maybe it shook you, right? Maybe you felt uncomfortable, no problem. But if you don't feel like, I'm not feeling this right now, go back, do research, see where it is you're going to, how would you get there, what would your route be? I had two people this week say, I still want to come. I feel a little bit nervous. I don't want to fly into Mexico City, which be fine because I was just in Mexico City 2 weekends ago, and I was in Mexico City on Monday. I literally brought my son to Mexico City. I waited for him to get on his flight. He flew solo for the second time from Mexico City directly to Miami, where his dad picked him up. And I waited in Mexico City. I hopped in a taxi. I went back to the bus station, hopped back on the bus. Love the bus. Okay, ETN. I got the double decker at the top, the front window. The view was amazing. And I just remember looking around thinking, like, it's so beautiful here, the mountains and everything green. The point is that do the research, right? Going into Mexico City is fine, but if you don't feel comfortable with doing that, then go to a place that's closer. And I'm promoting for San Miguel because that's where I live. And Querétaro. I was in Querétaro today with Anne-Marie, Ball Girl Travel. And yeah, I drove. I picked her up. I zoomed over to Casa ELM, do some stuff, hopped in my car. We drove to Querétaro. We went to, we both had appointments. We went to two amazing appointments at hospitals, and we're fine, just, general stuff. And I went in and I was just like, this place looks like a condo. It was just beautiful. And, I'll go in and she's like, wait till you see where mine is. And I was like, I've driven by this so many times. I went to Home Depot. We went to Costco's. We stopped at the gas station. We were going to go to the mall, but we didn't have enough time and we came back. So the point simply is that, I try to do most of my things in the day. Am I going to drive around Mexico in the night? Nope. And when I say Mexico, I'm talking like these long distances. I could have driven on Monday to Mexico City, but I would have had to leave at 2 a.m. I don't know the highway well enough, right? I probably could do it, no problems, but I'm just not, I know people that do it all the time, but I just feel like that's not my thing. I'm okay to catch a bus at that time because I'm on the bus. I'm not driving. I don't have to figure out where I'm going. I don't have to look at my GPS and, look at the road. Would I do it during the day? Absolutely. I have driven throughout Mexico many of times, but I'm always doing it in daylight because I need to know where I am. I need to see things. The point is that always, even along the way, what's my route? Is there anything I need to know about? And it's not always easy to find that. So I'll ask people that are Mexican, like, hey, I want to drive to whatever. And I'll look at their immediate reaction, and a lot of times their immediate reaction is they don't even know where that place is. I've spoken to so many Mexicans that are, they don't really go very far outside of the area that they know. Or if there's something to be concerned about, they will certainly pass that on to me. So just, want to share that. Oh, I guess I'm doing all. Excellent action, VJ. It's always good to have, these things. If you want to put cameras up, if you come to San Miguel and you need cameras put up, I have a guy. He did mine at Casa ELM. And yeah, I can see everything on my phone, every movement. I even had cameras at my previous place, but I got those more not because I was worried about the development. I got it because I wanted to see what people were doing when they were watching my dog, and also if I was out and they were babysitting my son, even though he's not baby, but I wanted to see what was happening. So it wasn't a nanny cam. It was quite obvious. It's a big camera, a couple of them. But here, yeah, I'm good. We have security, double security, and it's pretty cool. And as far as carbon monoxide, yes, it's worth the investment. I have invested in that for both places, and it just makes sense because a lot of if not all houses, are using some form of propane. And it's important for us to be aware. And if you're traveling around Mexico, bring a portable one. They're not expensive. You can get them on Amazon. They cost very little, and it's worth it. What right now? I keep an eye on Mexican. Yeah, I hear. For those who dibble and dabble in the market, yeah, we'll see what's going to happen with the U.S. economy, and it will affect. I mean, maybe the peso will get weak again. I don't know, but right now it is still declining. I went to the airport, and they have like the places where they exchange U.S. dollars for pesos, and it was down to, I think it was 17.5. So one US dollar was 17.5. And for those who joined last week, that we were talking about this, and it was a stress, because last week I was telling you that I changed money that I normally change for my bills and stuff. And yeah, you're losing money. And I say losing money, okay, because you're still getting more. So it's not the best way to say it. The point is that things will start to cost a little more than they did. And this is, for me, in 5 years that I've been here, almost 5 years, I haven't seen the peso 1 to 17.5. It's always been at least 18, and higher. So that's pretty much that. Do you all have any other questions? I still have some fires to put out for me tonight. I definitely had something else I was gonna share in regard to safety. Let's see, here we go. Oh. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so some of the top things, and we talked about this last week, or a few weeks ago, in regard to why people travel to Mexico, or maybe why they feel unsafe or uncomfortable in Mexico, but also some of the pluses. In my opinion, I think that for me, it's always the people. I feel like the locals are very friendly. I feel like they more than likely will help you as opposed to not helping you. I think we come from a very kind of like isolation kind of mentality when we live in the US, especially for women. It's like always, being fearful if my car breaks down on the highway, like, something going to happen to me. I think we watch a lot of movies, and that's what happens in the movies, but in real life, these things do happen as well. But I do think that carrying that over to Mexico is also smart to some degree, but at the same time, I think people generally here will actually be willing to help you. There are no easy AAA phone calls to make and things like that. I've had so many folks help me when I had my Volkswagen Beetle. That was the first car I had here. And yeah, it just did whatever. I call her Nina. My brothers named her Nina, and she did whatever she wanted to. She worked when she felt like it. And there were times when it didn't work. And and I was embarrassed, and I was like, what do I do? How do I start it? And people would just pull over, help me get it going, and send me on my merry little way. So the people here, I find, always are extremely helpful. I think that some of the challenges that come up in terms of safety happen in a lot of tourist areas, because there are tourists. Typically, there tends to be maybe a little bit more in way of crime as well, whether it's petty theft, people trying to maybe sell drugs and stuff to folks that want to party, and it happens. It happened in South Beach. I live close enough to know that that's the case. Another thing was, the government actually has done a very great job of kind of showing, strength and force. I wasn't used to this when I first came to San Miguel. They literally ride around on the back of pickup trucks with their gun, the whole black face mask, and just the eyes out. And they're I won't say shotguns, probably not a shotgun, but like real, large guns. I don't know a lot about guns. And they basically ride around as a show of strength. They have checkpoints if things are happening. There are checkpoints where if your vehicle is of another state, maybe they are stopping people. I know during COVID, they were extremely strict. I know they were also in the United States, but they really handled COVID extremely well. But they also do this on a regular basis. There are several checkpoints into the city. I don't know the reasoning, but I see them every day. It's going in and coming back out because I live a little bit outside, not far outside of the, heartbeat of San Miguel. And they're cops, and I see them pulling people over, checkpoint, checking things or whatever. When they have festivals and any kind of thing in town, there's military everywhere, like show of force. So I do think that it's taken way more serious than maybe we think it is, or maybe we think they're capable of. I don't know, but I can say that I've been in some of those like kind of large crowd situations. I don't personally like them. I didn't like them in the United States. I don't like them here, but it's just my personal thing. But it's always felt calmer. I tend to kind of get out of the crowd and then be more on the outskirts where, because I've been to some crazy things in my life in the past. I've been to raves, been to reggae concerts, and it's like suddenly like the whole, everyone, thousands of people are rushing in this direction and people just start running. That's how you get trampled. And yeah. The point simply is I don't do these kind of venues and events anymore. I'm older and I'm wiser, maybe, or whatever. But I noticed that when I'm in Central and they do have like large events like this, I haven't been to one in a long time. I went to a couple of their New Year's Eve things, which are amazing. They have free, amazing bands and concerts that come and play, and people just come and can enjoy, and the fireworks are going off and the whole night. It's gorgeous, and it's actually very safe. But I don't like those kind of crowds, and I don't like the hassle of getting in the town and getting out of the town. So I tend to watch from somewhere, just look at the fireworks. It's amazing, and that's enough, and drink some champagne, count down, and go to sleep. But they do provide a very safe environment. There's a lot of military, there's a lot of police around, and typically people are pretty calm. Even if people are drinking, it's not like out of control, because a lot of the things here are very family oriented. Even the late night stuff, it's very family oriented. Suki, I've done the same whenever I try to see nothing. Whole group of Mexican men push my car down the road. Yes. Yeah, they're very helpful. I remember when we had a gas shortage here, I had, and I probably told this story before, I had my shuttle driver from Mexico City. He started making a whole bunch of stops along the way so I could get one of those canisters of gas to bring to my car in San Miguel. And this was when the new president, well, the current president had just, I think, gone into office, and he was shutting down the gas lines for all the illegal black market gasoline that was being sold. And suddenly there was like a gas short. It wasn't a shortage because we didn't have gas. It was a shortage because they were just trying to control things. So we're in the interior, didn't have gas. But anyway, this gentleman that was my shuttle driver from Mexico City, he literally stopped as soon as I said something to him at every gas station on the way back from Mexico City. We're talking a 3 to 4 hour ride. We got to one mobile station, which is just not too far from my house. We sat in that line for 4 hours so he can get me a little bit of gas in my tank. And they were all lined up, and they were just outside handing each other sandwiches and talking and asking us if we wanted drinks and Cokes. And then they wouldn't even turn their car on. They were just push their car forward a little so they didn't have to burn gas, and then put it back in park and keep talking. They were just so chill and laid back, and I couldn't believe how patient he waited for me to get this little bit of gas so I could put it in my little tiny Bocho, which was my Volkswagen Beetle. And I remember thinking like, wow, and I tipped him like some crazy tip when we got back to the house, and he didn't have, the thing you need to pour the gas in. So he literally, they just cut a Coke bottle, gas in there. It's just, the point is I remember waiting in lines at the gas station for gasoline when there was a hurricane coming in Florida, and people were angry and obnoxious and pissed. 4 hours handing sandwiches? No, people would be just like blowing the horn and cursing and getting crazy. So, it's just showed me, and this was a few years ago, it showed me the nature of the people here. They're more likely to help than not. So I just wanted to say that. So petty thefts, yeah, it happens. It happens. I've been pickpocketed, not in Mexico, when I was in Barcelona. Almost happened twice. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. It was the person I was with. This was quite a few years ago. It happened. We were trying to go into a soccer game, and I was like, why would you put the cash in your pockets? And got up to the thing to pay, and we had bunny ears. And I was just like, when I travel like that, I put my money, and this might be gross, I don't care. I put my money in my shoe. I put it in plastic, put my money in my shoe. And and even when I go to the Tuesday market, I am very cautious. And I've never had a problem, but it's just certain things that I do. I don't know where I got that from, because I have not been robbed in my lifetime. Someone stole my bike, and that was enough to piss me off. Auntie Lou, I expect the family-centered approach. Yes, very much so. They're either political or conservative, very conservative, especially in the interior of Mexico. I'll tell you, here in San Miguel, people are extremely conservative, especially in the way they dress. Coming from Miami, extreme heat, hot, we're a little sexier with our attire and things like that. Not that people aren't beautiful here. They really are very beautiful, stylish. The women are very stylish, but people are definitely more conservative. And I know that's not, direct relation to this, but they tend to be a little bit more, under sexy. I was going to say underdressed. They're typically dressed very nice, but you're not going to get a lot of what you would get maybe in hotter spaces and places. Because I've been to Puerto Vallarta, and it's hot. And I was just like, oh, they got their shorts on, and you go to Cancun, and it's just different because the temperature is hot. So you're not going to be like, with a poncho or wrap or whatever. So let's see. The other things, are just basically the safe cities that are considered safe cities in Mexico. I don't even know where these stats come from, but Merida is pretty much the capital of the Yucatan state, and is often called one of the safest cities in Mexico. I've actually seen that online a few years in a row. It has a low crime rate and very friendly, welcoming atmosphere. I know that there's a very growing, rapidly growing expat community there as well. And I know that it is extremely hot there. I personally haven't been there yet. It was one of the places I semi-considered moving to or going to visit, and I decided I didn't want to be hot anymore because I had lived a long time in South Florida. And although I do like the heat, I think I just was looking for, slight changes in the seasons, not extreme. I don't want winter. And it does get a little chilly here as well. In other parts of Mexico, it gets colder, but I just wanted, not that crazy extreme weather. But it's hot in Merida. I've heard people describe it as hella hot. San Miguel de Allende is one of the places they consider. These are generally the 5 safest places to, people say, and I think it's more that they're popular. I think it's more that they're known. I think there are lots of safe places in Mexico, but these are the ones that I think are more known. So there's Merida, San Miguel, which is where I am, Puerto Vallarta, Campeche, which is in the Gulf of Mexico, so that's going to be closer to the Yucatan side. And then there's Querétaro, which is the next state over, and that's where I was earlier today. Again, there are always going to be struggles in every country that you go to, including the ones that you come from. And I think it's important for you to always use the same judgment. Hopefully those are good judgments when you're traveling around, no matter where it is that you are. So yes, Merida has petty crime. So does San Miguel. I've seen people say, oh, somebody cut my purse at the Tuesday market, and a bunch of girls were asking me the time. And I'm like, the minute someone asks you the time, especially in your language, be like, why aren't you looking at your cell phone? Just saying. That happened to me. Well, not me, but when I was traveling in Spain. What time is it? That's because they were trying to steal our stuff, right? Tom just got back from. Wow, thankfully it was people point of sale guard on my card, so they couldn't use it. Anyway, I'm so sorry to hear that, Tom. Let's see. Puerto Vallarta was a big crime. I would like to know more. Do share where you were. Were you at a place? I was going to move to Merida this year and change my mind. Yeah. Yeah, I've just heard a lot about the weather in Merida. It sounds like a very nice city. I definitely want to visit when it's not as hot. But I'm so sorry that happened to you, Tom. And I'm happy you had some protection. Let's guard on my card, on your cards and things. Again, it can happen. I always say, for people who not necessarily just traveling here, but especially if you live here, and I mentioned this a few weeks ago, is to have a backup to get access to your money. Have a card that you don't walk with all the time. Have a extra debit card for another, like if you, for example, I have a few checking accounts and a card for those. I only use one, but if I have to move something over to another, I have access because I have another card for that. Because it can happen to any of us. I lose it, stolen, whatever. I try not to keep, large sums in that would be just spent somewhere, especially here. I just use my money here to pay bills, and that's it, because I don't really know how things work, and I'm not going to judge it, but I don't really want to find out either. So I know that if I encounter fraud or theft in the US, that I'm going to probably get my money back, or I'm going to be, they're going to shut it down, and it's fast, it's quick, it's easy for me to communicate. So here I typically am like, put the money in, take the money out, pay my bills, make sure everyone's taken care of. And that's going to be the end of that. So I'm sorry that happened. I know several people that have told me various things or stories I've seen people post on Facebook, especially at the Tuesday market. And I don't want to dissuade you from going to the Tuesday market. It's just when you go, just be careful. Don't put your money, just leave all your money or have it all hanging out or whatever. As women, we got our special places we can tuck our money into. I typically will just say, okay, I need 1,000 pesos to buy the things I need, so I don't have to keep pulling my wallet out and things like that. Generally, it's not an issue, but I have heard at least 3 times since I've lived here in 5 years, someone post or seen someone post that, their stuff was stolen. I remember even someone said, "Oh, I had my bag, not at the Tuesday market, the grocery store. I had my purse in the cart and I was shopping." I'm like, why would you put it in the cart? I have one of those bags you put over, and I always like, if I, depending on where I am, the opening is actually to my body or my person. And it's just the things that I do is like, sounds a little maybe annoying or over the top, but I typically will do stuff like that. There are scams. Sometimes there's petty crime. And again, a lot of that kind of comes down to people not earning enough, or they're desperate and they really want to make money or whatever. I think that happens in any place. So let's see. I would love to link up. Yes, you guys link up. Risk wallet. Yes, Anne-Marie, you put me onto that. You put me onto the wrist wallet. I like it. I actually have the flat thing where I use to travel that you put on the inside. It's pretty comfortable because I don't put a lot in there. So it depends on where I am, where I'm going. If I'm going to the unknown, unfamiliar place in a country that, I'm not familiar with. Yeah, I tend to be extremely cautious about where my things are. And they're usually on my person. And yeah, you probably have to strip me down to get to it. And that's going to be a fight. So, I think, again, same things apply to Mexico, is knowing where you're going, being cautious, being safe. And if you want to travel, right? Just do your homework, take your time, link up with people. Like we offer our services, we try to help people who are interested in coming. We want to help you get here safely. We want to show you where you can be, what neighborhoods and things like that. And that's a part of our mission, is to help that happen as much as possible. And, for those who don't know, if on here, replay, whatever, we have relocation tours, we have travel experiences. If you go to casaelm.com, you can find them there. And just know and understand that there are people in different places. There's Suki in Oaxaca. There's Patricia and Tally in Zihuatanejo. If you don't know where that is, that's the west side of Mexico. And it's a beach. It's a nice beach that's only 4 hours away or so from San Miguel. So that's actually the closest beach to San Miguel. There's Lisa Riley and Playa del Carmen. There's so many amazing people that are in different places that can help you visit or move to Mexico. So on that note, I am going to wrap up this live. Thank you so much. So, my story, met my hubby because of a vehicle issue. Okay, I don't know that I knew that, Lorraine. I'm not sure that I knew that. But, if you found love on a two-way street, your car broke down, then that's awesome. Helped you get it together. Oh, yes. And Wendy Johnson in Puerto Vallarta. She's been in Puerto Vallarta for also a very long time. So, I hope I answered questions. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any comments or anything you can think of, feel free to put them in the comments. I try to check at least twice a week. And if there are any topics you want to hear about, feel free to also send me a message. You can also reach me on afroexpats@gmail.com. Also on expatlifemexico.com. I know I have a lot of things going on, but any of those will get you to an email address. And I offer relocation strategy sessions for those who do want to move, and we can provide you with kind of a personalized consultation that will help you for your specific journey to Mexico. Don't quit on Mexico. I really send prayers to the family of all of those that were, suffering and injured and also passed away with this tragedy that happened. And very unfortunate that, they look like me, heartbreaking actually. And it's scary, but I also want you to look at a lot of the other things and other factors as well and make informed decisions. If you decide to travel to Mexico or anywhere else in the world, don't let fear be the determining factor of why you stay at home and just look at videos and pictures. All right. And that's all I got for you folks. Have a great night. Thank you again for being here. I appreciate you. If you have questions, again, drop them in the comments box. Hi, Janella. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. Thanks for your support. Don't forget to hit the like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Have a good night, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Don't forget, next Wednesday at 6 my time. Okay, I guess Mountain Time. GMT. Never really lived in Mountain Time, I don't think, but that's where I am. That's pretty much it. And have a good evening, and we'll talk to you all later. Ciao. Mm-hmm.